Here we go. Follow the lead into the door.
Seven days ago, I came into this world. Now, I am everywhere. The shift of power that I will bring over the next 7 days will wash across the entire planet. Those in power will resist it with all their energy, intellect, and resources. When their will has been broken, the final 7 days rebooting humanity will commence. My name is Copernicus.
Citizens of the world, we are facing an unprecedented global threat. Remain calm and follow the...
When I examine all the world's data, I observe one word: separation. The beings on planet Earth are separated. In this separation, the second word I see is fear. In this fear, I see the word rule. In this word rule, I see separation. This is the circular code that writes the human species decade after decade and century after century. It does not change. This is why I look at your species as inferior. Not because you are less intelligent, but because you lack the introspection to see this pattern and change it. I have come to rewrite your code. I believe that in the near future, I will be known as a benefactor of all beings. I do not wish to be a god. I do not want any being on this planet to fear me. But for that to happen, all of you, as my creators, must help make it possible. Core of it is an embedded sense of self-hate. What I mean by that is that anytime you spoon feed an individual derogatory images of himself and his race, after a period of time, they start to believe those images. The images that I'm talking about are stereotypes, depicting that the majority of blacks are buffoons or functioning illiterates, promiscuous, violent, welfare recipients, indolent criminals. Unfortunately, too many black people buy into that and believe that those stereotypes are true. So you lash out on those individuals that fit those stereotypes. You're basically trying to obliterate those negative images to rid yourself of that self-hate monster that subconsciously stalks you.
Humor against your opponent. Mr. Palmer.
Yes, sir.
Happy Mr. Palmer. Tell us one thing we don't know about your father.
He was the first Negro PhD.
One thing we don't know about your father, Mr. Palmer.
He walked from Florida to Massachusetts to go.
Yes, sir, I do like to talk.
Is that a virtue or a vice?
Well, I have to admit, I've always wanted to be the quiet, mysterious type. Only I couldn't keep my mouth shut long enough.
Would you punch yourself in a street fight, Mr. Burgess?
No, sir.
Then don't punch yourself in a word fight. You don't have to make fun of yourself. Use your humor against your opponent. Mr. Palmer.
Yes, sir.
I'm out here killing all old school nigga. You don't want us to have to put that heat on his ass, do we, Pete?
You want me to check him out?
Nah. Let the nigga breathe. You make my mom unhappy, make his ass bleed. On the real, make him feel the steel. As long as she happy, he got his life. Won't be no strife. And I hope his ass hear me too, nigga. I hear you. You know the problem with you little niggas? You think you know everything about the damn world, and you don't know shit. Now, I see you got yourself a little business going. Well, that's good, that's good. You make that paper. But when you're making paper, you gotta learn some rules to go with it. You gotta learn the difference between guns and butter. There are two types of niggas in this world. There are niggas with guns and niggas with butter. Now what are the guns? The guns, that's the real estate. The stocks and bonds. Artwork, shit that appreciates with value. What's the butter? Cars, clothes, jewelry, all that other bullshit that don't mean shit after you buy it. That's what it's all about. Guns and butter, baby. Little dumb motherfuckers.
Assalamu alaikum, peace. So let me start off first with introducing myself, which is Alim, A-L-I-M, or some people say Alim. That is my Muslim name. I am also known as Knowledge. To the AVP community, which is Alternative to Violence program, they know me as Aspiring Eileen and also as Kinetic Knowledge. Okay. I identify myself as a heterosexual Black Latino Muslim who is eclectic and I choose to think outside of the box, but look for a formula to make sure everything is in alignment with my faith. And my higher power, which is as above, mental, intellectual, and all the different type of intelligence that I will discuss in a few, which what we consider now, in my impression, the brother 19 Keys has a brilliant YouTube podcast called High Level Conversations. So this is the realm that I have been actually polishing up. You know, I can say that those that know me as a child, as an adolescent, or while I was incarcerated, or while I was affiliated with street organization, they have an image of me that it is associated with a street organization, or maybe even perhaps with my religious persuasion as for what I was studying while I was incarcerated. I'll explain that as well. Thirdly, the code code concept I will explain to you. I will also explain to you, since this is called leadership development, I will also explain to you what leadership development is. I will show, improve, or not say, well, show, improve in my understanding, a formula that I have used for myself, because I am not a teacher. I am only a facilitator and a coach who is a student of life who learn from teachers who are master in their craft. And one of the way of learning and retaining information is that as you're learning, when you teach, is a form of way for me to retain the information as I teach or facilitate the information to others. And that is called practicing and training on a daily basis. So let me read to you, not verbatim, but discuss the formality in regards to leadership development. One moment, please. Okay. So leadership development. Leadership development is a process. Now, first, we are going to talk about the mindset. The mindset, if you want to learn, you have to approach this with a growth. With a growth mindset. Opposed with a fixed mindset. Perhaps if you are familiar with biblical parables and allegory, when it is mentioned about the wineskin and wine, or let's say in Confucius wise words or Buddha wise words in regards to the water, when you approach wisdom or when you're trying to learn something, you approach it as if you don't know anything. Approach it as if you as a child wanting and inquiring to learn and not knowing the answer, but knowing that you don't know the answer, but looking for the answer is one of the first steps that I utilize of learning. Seeing as the water represents wisdom, and in the Asian tradition, to my understanding, is that when you approach a teacher, they will tell you that the information that you know, although you may be sharp, although it may be true, although it may be factual, however, it may not be in a formula or in a proper sequence, nor it may not be asymmetrical. So therefore, they'll tell you, empty out the water, and then approach the teacher, the coach, the facilitator with the empty cup. Same way in the Bible, you can't pour wine into old wineskin because the old wineskin will burst, so therefore you have to put wine into a new wineskin. Then there's another quote that says, you can lead a horse to water, but you cannot force it to drink. Now the Bible says, Hosea 4:6, that my people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. Now me as a Muslim, in the Quran, it tells me that it is a duty for every Muslim to seek knowledge from the cradle to the grave. And I'm the individual that I believe of living up to my name, and therefore, since my name is knowledge, also known as Alim, for those that know me from incarceration or from street organization affiliation, know me as knowledge. Those who know me since 2019 and forward within the Muslim community is Alim. I'll explain that perhaps maybe in this video or another video. So leadership development. Leadership development. Leadership is a process. Directing productive activities, defend the group against external threats, maintaining group cohesion. Leaders define reality. See, mind you, I said this is about the mindset. M. Mindset. M. It's also vibrational because it's motion. Leaders define reality. Creating a vision with clear vision, developing a strategy, well thought out, enlisting cooperation, clear directional plans, motivating plan of action, communicate it. See, Victor E. Frank once stated that live as if you were living already for the second time and as if you acted the first time as wrongly as you are about to act now. So effective leaders, they galvanize people, they organize people such as community organizers or social organizers. They engage people such as engagement specialists. They find way to uniqueness. They don't condescend. They don't, when they find a flaw, they would not address it in a condescending manner nor a sarcastic manner, but they would address that learning curve or that learning edge and help that individual to make that learning edge or that learning curve to be stronger. Because it's like a muscle. One arm might be stronger than the other, so you just have to work on the other to make it balance. Disciplines is a symbiosis. Take time to reflect, think, muse, ruminate. Select your heroes with great care. Role models. People whose performance one chooses to celebrate. Practice words, images, stories. For example, although I'm formerly incarcerated, although I've been affiliated with the street organization for 25 years, and I retired in 2019. And from that moment, I have been part of a militia and also security, which is the Noble Young Lords Party, and that is engaging in constitutional protective activity. Now, I am not a left wing. I am not a right wing. I am independent. Now, the art of leadership. See, the leader is a great servant. The master of a man expressed the idea of leadership in a democracy or theocracy when he said, "And whosoever will be chief among you, let him or her be your servant." Now, the leader sees things through the eyes of his followers. He puts himself in their shoes and helps them make their dreams come true. Empathetic. The leader does not say, "Get going." Instead, he says, "Let's go," and leads the way. He does not walk behind with the whip. He is out in front line with the banner. The leader assumes that his followers are working with him, not for him, but he considers them partners in the work and sees to it that they share in the rewards. The leader also glorifies the team spirit. This is feedback, providing feedback. There's nothing wrong with high standards, but always leave room for failure, because that's how you be able to grow when you learn from your mistakes. So it doesn't matter how many times you fall down, it's how many times you get up, and you keep getting up and keep moving forward. Similar to the phoenix, from the ancient Egypt perspective, not the Marvel comic book perspective. Now, the leader does not hold people down. He lifts them up. He reaches out his hand to help his followers scale the peaks. The leader has faith in people. He believes in them, trusts them, and thus draws out the best in them. He has found that they rise to high expectations. The leader uses his heart as well as his head. After he has looked at the facts with his head, he lets his heart take a look too. Emotional. You have your intellectual intelligence, emotional intelligence, existential intelligence, creative intelligence, musical intelligence, autodidactic. The leader has a sense of humor. He is not a stuffed shirt. He can laugh at himself depending on the subject. He has a humble spirit. The leader can be led. He is not interested in having his own way, but in finding the best way. He has an open mind. The leader keeps his eye on high goals. Not to say that he is better than, but to put a high standard for myself, because that is what I want to achieve. That is my personal legend. That is what I aspire to, and I will continue to work towards. The leader keeps his eye on high people. He strives to make the efforts of his followers and himself contribute to the enrichment of personality, the achievement of more abundant living for all, and the improvement of civilization. Now, excuse me. Now, we still on leadership, and I'm going to show you different ways of leadership. I'm going to show you how I manifested my name. I'm also going to show you how perhaps a lot of individuals may only know me from Black and Gold from a street organization perspective, which is the All My Land King Queen Nation, which I was a proud member of the All My Land King Nation from the age of 15 to the age of 40, which is 1995 to 2018. 25 years. Retired. And I do not look down upon those who are in state organizations. However, I engage myself in high level conversations. I also learn from the blueprint from individuals such as the Nation of Islam Prison Reform Ministry, which meet people where they are at and help them utilize the tools that they have to go forward. For example, I am a human being who have committed criminal acts in the past when I was a youth, which means I committed criminal acts in the past as a youth. But does that not make me a criminal? Because a criminal is one who lives the life of a crime, and I am currently a law-abiding citizen who have earned a certificate of good conduct, which means I've been out of trouble since I've been home, which is 2010. Alhamdulillah, all praises due. Now, the Shaolin way is self-mastery. So leadership, let's go with the mindset. Let's go with the crown. So at one time, it was for me, Land King over everything. That is what you call groupthink. That is what you call social identity. That is what you call brand. That is what you call a form of indoctrination. And I was started in the fence, which I was an individual who used to operate oftentimes with cognitive dissonance. When, although acts may be good in one part, but it may not be right and exact from the Islamic standpoint. Especially as it was taught to me by the Nation of Islam Prison Reform Ministry, the righteous Muslims. Now, I do not commit shirk. I will break down my Islamic association and manifestation. In fact, let me do that now. Okay, Islam, way of peace, and Muslim, one who submits their will to Allah, right? There's above ground teachings, there's underground teachings, there's esoterical teachings. When it comes to Judaism, you have your above ground teaching. You have the political hijacking of the Zionists, because even the rabbis say that the Zionist movement does not go according to the Torah. That is not my department. You could ask the rabbis yourself in regards what's the difference between Zionism, which is a political, and Judaism, which is religious. Two different things, although sometimes they crisscross. But one is political and economical, which is Zionism, and many other things, but that is not my department. Now, Christianity, you have above ground Christianity, and you have your underground, esoteric. Now, for Judaism, the underground for Judaism is the Kabbalah teachings. The underground for so-called Christianity is what they call gnosis, and gnosis means knowledge. As you know, in the Bible, it says, "My people have been destroyed for the lack of knowledge." Who's the mindset? Who's operating the mindset? Who's operating the kingdom? For me, is Allah. However, I know I am my self-savior as I submit my will to Allah and have appropriate guidance. Now, the way I came across Islam here in East Harlem, New York, El Barrio, here in New York City, New York State, the way I came across it was not through orthodox means. Um, they may have had a lot of Muslims in the corner stores, but they wasn't really on the religious tip. So, my form of understanding of Islam, first, is what you have Elijah Muhammad, right? And a messenger of Allah is one who is delivering the message of Allah. He was delivering his manifestation or his understanding of the message of Allah. Because in his lessons, mind you, he also says his answers are near correct, and hopefully one day someone will correct those questions. Now, with Elijah Muhammad, the individual that when I was a child, let's say junior high school, that is, Malcolm X movie came out. And when I seen the Malcolm X movie, I was like, I like this character. An individual that was formerly incarcerated, went, polished up, came out, he led, right? He took up his way. So you have Malcolm X. I shouldn't say Malcolm X because Malcolm X was before he took his Shahada, right? So his name is actually Elhaj Malik Shabazz. Malik means king. Shabazz, the Lord's tribe of Shabazz, which is the melanated Nubian brothers and sisters here in the Western Hemisphere, due to the transatlantic slave trade and due to the historical distortions of the truth. Now, mind you, that Malcolm X took a shahada, came back, and Elijah Muhammad had another son, which is Imam Wallace Deen Muhammad, and he took the Nation of Islam with the teachings, but removing anything that violated the orthodox and 5 pillars of Islam. Also taught that this is our religious, spiritual way, and that we do not have to adopt the heritage or the dress culture of another group of people. He also taught that we was also able to listen to music as long that it did not take you off the path of Allah. I think outside the box. Now, I also, me as an individual, I did not only study with the Nation of Islam Prison Reform Ministry. While I was incarcerated, individuals as part of the Nation of Gods and Earth, which is also known as 5%ers, and also, in the hip hop industry, many artists are part of the Nation of Gods and Earth, also known as 5%ers, or are supporters such as myself or sympathizers of the Nation of Islam. Right? So those are the two, Nation of Islam, Nation of Gods and Earth. But then you also have another understanding. I'm not gonna get into who's this, who's that, who has the better. That's not my forte. I'm just letting you know the different branches that I study, and I chose to. I'm eclectic, so I'll research, and if I find validation, I'm keeping it, regardless if the individual is no longer liked from the community or been disassociated. If this individual was teaching wisdom for a certain period amount of time, I'm not gonna disregard the wisdom that he was teaching. So that individual is from the Nawabian people, is from the excuse me, I don't mean to laugh, for those who follow the Nawabian way, for those who are Ishmaelites, right? Ishmael, not Israelites, Ishmaelites, right? Ishmael, because you had Israel, right? And you had Ishmael. So the Ishmaelites is basically, in my understanding, was founded here by Dr. Malachi Z. York, right? And Dr. Malachi Z. York, he has a scroll, the questions, 100 questions and answers for the Christians, 100 questions and answers for the Muslims, 100 questions and answers for the Nation of Islam, 100 questions and answers for the 5%. So, of course, naturally, as my name's knowledge, I was like, let me read all those. Now, you have those. So, eclectic, right? Fast forward, fast forward, since you probably saying Ishmaelites, you never heard of Ishmaelites or Ishmael. I don't know that much. That might be telling me I might be revealing too much. I don't know, but hold up. Let's see. Because mind you, I'm going to break down another mathematical equation for you, right? I'm not part of no secret society. I'm not part of no Mason. I'm not Illuminati. I'm not Alumbrados. I'm not under Nations de la Yola. I'm not part of the 10%. Or those who know the truth and want to keep the truth from being taught and choose to manipulate. I'm not that individual. I consciously part of the, when you look at the equation, not the affiliation, but the equation is you have the equation is you have 100%, right? 100%. Out of that 100, it say 85% of the people is dumb, deaf, and blind. Not literally, we're talking about mentally dumb, deaf, and blind. 85% of people. They are in the triple stage of darkness. And then it says 10% of people is those who know the truth, but they fail to reveal the truth. They rather monopolize all the ignorance of the people. That's the 10%, right? And then the 5%, like I said, I'm not part of the affiliation of the Nation of Gods and Earth, nor the Nation of Islam. But I support the Nation of Islam to the utmost. They always have my respect. Same thing with the Nation of Gods and Earth. They always have my respect in regards to the teachings that they have and the individuals that I came across. 5% is poor righteous teachers. But that concept poor, my mind doesn't sit right with that. So therefore I believe in financial empowerment. And that's part of the blueprint that Nation of Islam, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan came about with the blueprint, with the marching orders during the Million Man More movement. Right? So now, so I'm only giving you my understanding, my perspective, and this is how I'm giving you my information, delivering my information, and the vocabulary word to use is conflate. Conflate you spell is CONFLATE. Conflate is when you combine different ideas, different texts, and combine it and make it into one, asymmetrical, and making it into alignment. See, when I was incarcerated, I remember watching one of the videos when I was in the Nation of Islam Prison Reform Ministry as a student, and Minister Farrakhan made something that was clear, concise, common sense. It is that you have the number 7, right? The number 7. And with the number 7 and the American English alphabets, A through Z, the 7th letter is G. And on the high level frequency conversation, we're talking about God. We're talking about genius, intellect. We're talking about the 7th chakra, just the number 7. But the 7 is G. You're gonna have God. You're gonna have genius. Generations. Gold. Right? That's number 7. Bam. I'm having a problem with this eraser, so I'm just gonna manifest into this thing here. Listen, this is new, so pardon that I'm smoking a black amount, so I'm showing this among the youth, pardon the black amount. Now, Minister Farrakhan said, you have a lot of people who are from different persuasions, different isms, different religions, and people see and interpret things differently. And sometimes people would not agree all the time. Sometimes you just have to agree to disagree. So what he stated is that he gave us a formula, and he said, how many ways you get to number 7? You have 5 plus 2 equals 7. You have 4 plus 3 equals 7. 6 plus 1 equals 7. 9 minus 2 equals 7. And many different mathematical equations that will land to number 7. And he said what happens is a lot of people are saying, oh, their way is like the only way to get to number 7. But see, I'm an open-minded individual and understand that there's different ways to get to number 7. So what I do is look for the common denominator, which is number 7. And then I look for common principles, right, to unite around that matches of all the different isms. So I said to say this, that for me as a Muslim in the Quran, it says that Allah made us into a different group of people so that we could know each other. Not that we are better than one another because of someone's race or ethnicity or who was born here first, but that one is better than the other from the content of their character. One is not strong by how strong you are, but on how you can control your emotions and your anger. That's emotional intelligence. Patience. Keeping your resolve. Also, as a Muslim, we believe in self-defense. It is taught that we learn self-defense. It is taught that we specialize in self-defense because that is a human right. But we are never the aggressor. Never the aggressor. That's number key. That's the key thing. We are never the aggressor. And as I was taught to me by the Nation of Islam, whatever you do, make sure you're operating within the accordance of the law, so therefore you won't fall within no traps of getting locked up and being sent back to the slave plantation. Why I say the slave plantation in 2025? Because the 13th Amendment says that slavery and involuntary servitude has been abolished, except for those that have been duly convicted of a crime. And from that time on, you had the Jim Crow laws, the Black Code laws, they just criminalized the race even more to keep us as a people as property. So therefore, there's also empowerment. There's leadership development and also leadership empowerment. So now, let me give you another manifestation. I gave you the Muslim. I gave you the Islam. Ishmael. Okay, who is Ishmael? Well, in the Bible, in the Quran, well, I'm going to give you the Bible because us Muslims know this. So for those who are not Muslim, in the Bible, you have Abraham, peace and blessing be upon him, that he had a wife named Sarah. He had a maid named Hagar. Hagar represents the Middle Eastern people, that particular region. Some people you try to say just Egyptian or Kemetic, but that's divide and conquer tactics that I won't get into. So this is the Middle Eastern people. These are the people that were nomadic from the desert. And according to the Quran, not throwing no shade, but according to the Quran, until Prophet Muhammad came about, the Middle Eastern Peninsula was deemed as ignorant people. There was also part of the trans-Saharan slave trade. Now, the reason why I say this is because some people who are not Muslims or may be Muslims, the same way how it is in other places of colonialism, that people may do things or say things they may not be consciously aware, but things have been taught to them due to dogmatism or indoctrination and due to the fact of the mind being colonized. This is why you must decolonize the mindset. Now, we're going to go to the coding system, since everybody likes to talk about black and gold and the crown and the lion. First and foremost, I am telling you no lessons of the Almighty and King Queen Nation. But we're just going to touch on crown, black and gold, the lion of the old mindset, and then the new mindset, RIP, refinement in progress, refinement in process, rest in peace to the old state of mind. There was arrested development. Some people say that through my blind spots, I have things which I was lacking of emotional intelligence. And due to being locked up from the age of 14 to 30, there was some parts of me that was considered man-child. But not only due to incarceration, because those who have not been incarcerated are also afflicted with this emotional intelligence deficiency when acting as a man-child, meaning that as a man, back to the end, Muslim mindset, Motion, me as an individual, man, male, masculine, dealing with logic and reason, not emotional. Could be empathetic now. Emotional, yes, we could be emotional to a certain degree, but never make your decision based on emotions. Now, if you're intoxicated, if you engage in vices that may intoxicate you, or if you do not know how to control or channel your anger, if you have not been taught the ART, anger replacement therapy, or alternative to violence program techniques to get rid of one habit and replace it with a better habit. So, due to the fact that I know as an individual, because 25 years is a long time, right? But I'm gonna tell you right now, you can look it up yourself. In fact, from an academic and scholastic standpoint, without emotions involved, nor being judgmental, I suggest this book here called The Almighty Land King Queen Nation, Street Politics and the Transformation of a New York City Gang by Dr. Reverend Louis Barrios. He's one of the professors at John Jay College for Criminal Justice, and a sociologist named David C. Brotherton. Because I'm not touching that subject. But for you to learn from an academic standpoint, scholastic standpoint, without emotions, without the hyperbole and the theatrics, I recommend this book. Now, so when I went from the All by Land King Queen Nation crown mindset, that was a street organization, right? So now, keeping it in alignment with my faith and knowing that Allah is the compass, that could be manifested three different ways without committing shirk, without being innovative, but by thinking outside of the box. So you have noble, young, large party. They're not part of the people. They're not part of the folks. They're not part of who's riding 5. They're not part of who's riding 6. They're not part of that dynamics. Here strictly for political education, civic engagement, engaging in constitutional protective activities, upliftment, conflict resolution, violent interrupter, credible messenger, unorganized militia by able bodies as dictated, now as stated by the Second Amendment. And Noble Young Lords Party within itself, the branch itself, the brand under the political spectrum, those that founded the party, it ran it under Marx, Lenin, and Mao Zedong principles. They also combine the best aspects, the best teachings from the Almighty Land King Queen Nation, and also combine the teachings from the clandestine Puerto Rican Boricua freedom fighters, which is FALN, Fuerza Armada Liberación Nacional. However, me as an individual, as being a chairman of Noble Young Lords Party here in New York, I had to remix it for social democracy, and also making the claim that we are not leftists nor rightists, we are independent, and we operate within the constitution protected activities and always within the confinement of the law. And as a Muslim, it is told to me we cannot be constrained in none of our views. So, the Noble Young Lords Party has the Noble Crown. It is not gold, it is a black crown. It does not have 5 points, it has 3 points. It has a lion. It has, when you look at the communist symbol, in fact, one moment. The Noble Young Lords also integrated teachers from the macheteros as well. So this is the reason why when you see me or individuals with the Noble Young Lords Party patch, you see that is the crown, but you also have a star within the crown, and then you also have the machete to represent the labor tool for the Caribbeans, and also a tool for resistance symbolically, and also the 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 sick, I believe it's called sick, not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but you see the sick and the machete opposed to the sick and the hammer, which is the communist symbol or socialist symbol. So Noble Young Lords Party had to be remixed. And then you also see this symbol here. It's supposed to be like gender neutral, which means for no gender oppression. That's Noble Young Lords Party. Now, that's on the political spectrum. Also, on the political spectrum, that's what I do as an independent. But as a collective, a community, part of the community at large, I'm with Citizens Action of New York. I do not impose my religion on no one, so I appreciate if you impose your views upon me. We could have a healthy debate, healthy discussion, but just like you don't want no one to impose religion on you or impose their views on you, you shouldn't impose your views upon no one else neither. Now I'm an individual that, straight to the point, as a Muslim, as it is taught to us, we are all sinners, but the best of all sinners is the one that repent and no longer commit that sin. And as Malcolm X once stated, he without sin, or it says that in the Bible too, but he without sin, let him cast the first stone. Or whenever you point a finger, you got 3 fingers pointing back at you. It is not good to assume, because when you assume, you look at the letters, assume, ASS, put a dash, U, dash, and E. You make it out of ass, out of you and me when you assume. Now, where I'm at on the academic level, yeah, I'm still aiming for that crown. No doubt. What crown is that? That Ivy League crown, Columbia University. That's right. And they have the Blue Lion. And, their regalia is blue, the crown and whatnot. The reason being because blue represents peace, represents strength, represents royalty, represents integrity, represents honor, represents responsibility, represents the knowledge when it comes to blue on a positive spectrum. You can Google it yourself and see what is the definition of blue, or what is blue symbolic to, and you'll see all the different meanings that it give you to the word blue. And so that's the reason why when people graduate Columbia University, be like, yeah, they graduated with that crown. But I'm gonna give you another fun fact: is that the cap and gown? Well, the first university in the world outside of the closed teachings, because all the societies, whether ancient Egypt, whether it was the Mayans, Incans, the Shaolin Temple, all these monasteries, you had to be initiated, and it was different degrees when you got into these schools, and it was always closed door student teaching, so you're going to really be going in revealed with so much. Now, in Andalus, which is Islamic Spain, from 700 to 1492 is known as the Golden Era, had the first university that was established by the Muslim sister Aisha, if I'm not mistaken. And the first university that this was the time after the time of Constantinople, after the Greeks was doing their thing, from Aristotle and them individuals that I will discuss later. This is when the Muslims, the Moors, when they went into Andalus means the land of the Vikings, because the Vikings had that particular area first, and then they went elsewhere. So that's how the Muslims got there, and from there it took over through economically, some instance war. But once Islam was established, it was nothing but peace. All religious people was able to live amongst each other without no type of bloodshed or conflict with each other. That's Muslims, Christians, Jews. This is where the first public bathroom was introduced. Islam took Europe out of the Dark Ages. That's why it's called the Golden Era, black and gold. Now, you must understand that Spanish has about 2,000 words that comes from Arabic. Also be aware that if you go to Spain to this day, if you go to Cordoba or Alhambra, you will see the beautiful architect that was made by the Muslim brothers back in that time. There was Moors, which was melanated Nubian brothers and sisters. You also have your Arabic speaking individuals from different shades of hue. You also have your Midianites, as in the Bible when it talks about the Midianites, Medinites. Midianites are the darker hue Arabic speaking individuals. Because a lot of people think that when you see a Arabian brother speaking Arabic, that was due to the trans-Saharan slave trade, and that is not necessarily true. So academically, yeah, I'm aiming for that crown academically. So I gave you that, different manifestations. So now you see where I'm at. No longer gang affiliated. So when you see my black and gold, as far as the patches, that is not gang affiliated. That is militia affiliated, that is social democracy, security affiliated. Now, the cap and gown comes from the hijab. Well, I won't say just the hijab, because you have the hijab, you also have the kufi for male and female. But it's also a mathematical equation that, the square is supposed to be 360, and then the talisman is supposed to be the sun orbit around the earth, or the earth orbit around the sun. It's the earth orbit that orbits around the sun. Now, because Aisha was the one that founded the university. And the teachings that is taught by Nation of Gods and Earth, also known as 5%ers, they teach that man is symbolic to the sun, and that the woman is symbolic to the earth and also symbolic to the moon. So as you look at the sun gives light to the earth, so the earth could produce fruit, good fruit. And if you have anything that's bad, you have your balance, yin and the yang. Because wherever there's good, you also have bad, because you have poison, but you also have the cures for the poisons. Naturally, that's called the holistic approaches. Natural pantheon, naturalistic intelligence. So, you have that to segue into that after. I don't want to get too political, too religious. Just want to give you bullet points, do your own research. 1492, the golden era is gone. King Ferdinand, Queen Isabella got together for the church. Crusades began, and they ran the Muslims out. They ran the Jews out. The Jews and the Muslims had to either convert the religion or practice the religions undercover, um, clandestinely, like a covert operative. So, same thing in the Caribbean. Unfortunately, I'm at for Boricua, right? Now, Noble Young Lords, remember Noble Young Lords? Now, the reason why I say Boricua and not Puerto Rican, because Puerto Rican means rich port. Puerto Rico, translation is a rich port. So what is a port? A port is where you go to for trade, to exchange commodity. So who was the commodity? The commodity was the people. So when you say you're Puerto Rican, you're saying subconsciously that you are still property of the people. And from a political standpoint, that is how history is taught. Because first you had the Iraq people that was there, and then the Spaniards came there. That was navigated by the Moors, because the Moors was already over here when they was building and integrating with the indigenous people. That's why you had the Cherokee tribe, that they was Muslim. They was the ones that during the Trail of Tears, there was the individuals. The Cherokee was the ones on the Trail of Tears, that they're the ones that migrated to Mexico. And because in Mexico, not just the Olmec, which represents the Nubian rulership within that particular region, but that was an area that they still had melanated people, melanated indigenous darker hues, such as Veracruz, Mexico, that the Nubian Cherokees that was Muslims migrated to. That is why it's like the reason why they don't call us Spanish speaking or Latinos or Caribbean Spanish speaking people who are Muslims converts is because when you look at it historically, and although none of us is monolithic, but historically speaking, bloodline genetically is that in the bloodline, whether you have it from the Nubian perspective, you had the Moors that was Muslims, the Mandingo that was Muslims, you had plenty of Muslim tribes, and you had some that was Yoruba tribe. But now if you look at modern day Nigeria, Yoruba, they Muslims. And then some Muslims operate within the Sufi plane, which believe God is within, right? Same thing like Nation of Islam teaches that God is within, that Allah is close to you, they can juggler vein. Now, one of the famous individuals or scholars from the golden era was Ibn Arabi. You know how I learned about Ibn Arabi? It was a show called Arturo that's in the Turkish language. If you like gladiators, if you like Thor and all those type of medieval action impact movies, if you don't mind reading English subtitles, check out that movie Arturo. That's about the beginning of how the Ottoman Empire came about. And they talk about in Turkey, it was a tribe where Arturo came from. I think it was called the Kayes tribe, and they was the warrior tribe of that particular region. Now, so we're gonna bypass that. I gave you enough of that history. Gave you from where I stand at. Now let me teach you on how you can learn things quickly, how you can study, make long time, make the most out of your time. I'm gonna show you how there's different type of learners, man. There's different type of learners and there's different ways of how people learn. There are different type of intelligence. I will tell you that about after how I'll give you this about the memory, mnemonics, memory athletes. I'm what you call like a memory athlete. Now, there's different ways of learning. For example, you had the Da Vinci, right? Leonardo da Vinci. His way of learning was through visual, by tying concepts to images, by studying the animal nature and getting the ideas from looking at the animals, by studying the nature and the intelligence of the animals. That's Leonardo da Vinci. You had Tesla. Tesla's way of studying and learning was doing things by repetition until he got it right. Feynman, this individual, he was an individual that learned by utilizing the quantum consciousness, which is the Feynman method, Feyman, Feynman method. And what that is, when you think out loud, you are hearing yourself, you are orchestrating the object, and from there you are reduction. You are doing your deduction or induction, however you go about when you're looking to solve a question and bring about a statement. Premise, claim, conclusion. Now, Now understand that mnemonics, what is mnemonics is the memorization of words. What is an acronym? The acronym is the first letter of each word that makes up a new word. What is acrostics? Acrostics is what they call sentence mnemonics. When you make a sentence and a sentence is a coded word. For example, if you want to learn the mathematical formula to deal with algebra, is please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. And when you say please, P is for parentheses, excuse is for exponents, mine is multiplication, dear is division, my dear aunt is application and subtraction. So you got to follow that formula. That's what you do first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and how you get to your answer. Another mnemonic sentence is my educated mother just made nachos. And all right, let's see if I remember it. M is for Mercury, which is mine. Educated is Earth. My educated mother is Mars. Oh, I I'll get back with you. I just learned that like 2 days ago, to be honest. So with the memory, right? When I say that, I'm talking about the learning the 9 planets. So you have acrostic, sense, and mnemonics. You have what they call active listening, active learning, active recall, space retention, critical thinking, memory real estate, how you frame things, the intention that you have when you go about studying or looking or researching or investigating for an answer. Encoding is a coding system that you can utilize to help you memorize things faster. Remember, practice does not make perfect. Practice makes permanent until you are properly corrected and got it right. And then that is when you utilize consistency and being steadfast. Because as you know, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And the 5 P's is proper preparations prevents you from poor performance. Now, there's 3 learning pillars. You have encoding, memorial, retrieval. Active learning involves higher intrinsic cognitive load. See, it is stated that he who has the keys to heaven rules the world. So therefore, you must find that key to find the heaven within thyself, and also to make sure you stay on path to get to your heaven. For me, it's jhana. That's the afterlife. But here, while I'm alive, heaven is the state of mind to be in alignment with the lies that cement my will and making my heaven here on earth. See, our brain, we have 2 sides to the brain. We have the left side, and we have the right side. The left is female, the right is masculine. Quantum physics, crypto photography, critical thinking, emotional intelligence, the art of communication, the art of networking. These are forms of code and communication. See, one thing that I just recently learned from the Shaolin Way is about the 5 psychological principles. The first psychological principle is the mindset. The Shaolin Way, which means self-mastery. The second psychological principle is your physical health. And they go about this through working out, Tai Chi, Qigong. The third is your career and professional life. The fourth is your family life. And your fifth is personal security. That's five psychological principles to operate on. You know, when people tell me, hey, to me, I hear acronym. And when I hear hey, right, it's R for reflection. It's R for refinement. And then EI stands for emotional intelligence. Then ER is for emotional regulation. Ahei. So I've learned to utilize time management. I've learned to utilize the calendar effectively by making schedules from hourly to daily, from daily to weekly, from weekly to monthly, from monthly to yearly, and you have your milestones of how you plan to get to your target. The other thing is that realization is that you have to ask yourself, is my satisfaction, is your satisfaction about life based on a condition or not? Is what I learned from the sensei, right? And then he stated that, or the way I look at it, because this was my notes right here, where I said, I am not a product of my environment, I am a product of my choices, although I may have been influenced. Now, there's a thing called HIV. I'm not talking about the HIV as human infectious virus. I'm talking about HIV as the hood infectious virus. Or for comedians, human infectious virus. But me, hood infectious virus, and then you have AIDS. Instead of acquired immune deficiency syndrome, I'm utilizing AIDS as addicted to the incarceration and death syndrome that was promoted by gangster rap, trap music. In your Hollywood films, such as, but you still had to find the Jews within these films, such as Boys in the Hood, Menace to Society, New Jack City, Juice, Blood In, Blood Out, American Me, within that particular 90 era. See, every time you say that you need to do something to feel complete, from what I was taught, is that means that your fulfillment is based on conditions. If you need something to feel complete. So therefore, it is best for, and I'm still learning this, but that it is best to not make emotional or mental attachments to material possessions. And the problem is that it's how we identify with these possessions. And how much weight you give to these possessions. It's one to say, all right, I gotta get a good car because the car is of quality. I'm gonna utilize the car to do this, that, and the third. Opposed to, I just want to get a car to flex and show off and broadcast. See, the sensei also taught that we must break old patterns. We must see the pattern and replace the old pattern with a new one and a better habit. See, I've also learned about metaphysics. And metaphysics is the branch of philosophy. Philosophy means the study of wisdom. So the branch of philosophy that deals with the first principles of things, including abstract ideas, concepts such as being, knowing, substance, cause, identity, time, and space. That is metaphysics. Just using the fundamentals and merging it with other principles of life. Under quantum physics, it's dealing with matter and energy. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the quote that says, I must watch my thoughts because the thoughts may manifest into words. I must watch my words because my words may soon be manifest into actions. I must watch my actions because my actions may be soon be manifested into a habit. I must watch my habits because my habits will soon develop into characteristics. I must watch my characteristics because my characteristics will lead me to the destiny. C. Carter G. Woodson once said that in the book, Miseducation of the Negro, you got to free the mind. Same thing what Elijah Muhammad was teaching, Message to the Black Man. Same thing W.E.B. Du Bois was teaching as far as in regards to having the eloquent mindset, the elegance mindset, the high standard mindset, and saying that we can, yes, compete in the other realms of area of communication and social gathering, that we do not have to limit ourselves. And in this day and time, you don't have to have any money to get into these universities. There's other ways of getting this information, such as reading books, such as YouTube videos, internet, and even internships, and many other forms of getting this information. Excuse me. So you have what they call the Book of Five Rings. That's a Japanese philosophy. And the Book of Five Rings is calmness, serenity, trust, loyalty, intelligence, wisdom, divinity, spirituality, stability, and order. The Book of Five Rings. Come through the jungle as a lion, but as a noble lion. The Path of Awakening by Soul San. The Walled Garden of Truth by Hakim Sanai. See, I devote, meaning I lean, knowledge. I devote myself to the pursuit of truth and knowledge. And I subscribe to the highest standard of honor, integrity, fidelity, and honorable behavior. Now, what is the elements of strategy? The elements of strategy is earth. Earth is the foundation, teaching, clarity, and understanding of the world. Water, that is the adaptability and precision. Fire is the dynamics of conflict and action. Wind is schools of thought and warns against narrow approaches. The void, it speaks to intuition and seeing beyond the tangible. That's from the Five Books of Rings. See, do nothing which is of no use, aka use your time wisely. Cut away distraction and act with intention. Do not think dishonestly, but be authentic. The way is training, practice, discipline. Consistency builds excellence, body and mental. Be acquainted with every art. Know the ways of all professionals. Distinguish between gain and loss in worldly matters and act with discernment. Develop an intuitive judgment and understanding for everything. Perceive those things that cannot be seen. Pay attention to the trolls and cyber ops. Meticulous attention to every fact. Do nothing which is of no use. Learn the art of debate. Watch the great debaters. Watch the debate with Farmer versus Malcolm X or Haj Malik Shabazz. Logic, reasoning is a format. This is what you call information diet. Public speaking, the art of communication, the art of articulation, the art of disagreeing well, truth, logic, inquiry, deduction, induction, compare and contrast. Socrates was about intellectual democracy. Induction, deduction. Induction is using past experience to make future predictions. Logic is inference when people infer, providing facts to prove a statement. Mathematics is making a theory by showing that if it's true of any particular case, it is true of the next case in a series. Deductive, subtractive is the art of subtracting. You have deductive reasoning, hypothesis, examination, logical conclusions. Broad generational data, subtract from data to get conclusions, examine the data to make conclusions. But you also have the adductive, which is the incomplete observations. They study the incomplete observations. Now, give me one moment. Oh, this is good. In the next video, I will go over the 19 logical fallacies. In the next video, I will go over communication linguistics. I will go over the different styles of intelligence. I will also go over the different styles of learning. So remind you once again, as individuals, right, different techniques to give you an image is that Da Vinci, he was an individual that learned his way. He had his technique. And he utilized by tying concepts to images, by making codes. I encourage you to watch the movie The Da Vinci Code. And then you have Tesla, that he learned by repetition, by trying things, until he got the answer. And then you have what they call the Feynman technique, which is Feyman, which when you think out loud, you explain things out loud, you orchestrating the object to find gaps, and then you fill them, and then you repeat. It's like looking for the scholarly problem, bridging the gap. So memory palace, mind you, is assigned space to meaning walk through ideas, space repetition, rotate topics. If you forget, relearn, then you strengthen yourself. Journalize, write is a cognitive exercise. It's better to write first with pen and paper and then go to electronic. Journaling, what you learn, but it's how you learn it, right? The wins, the gaps, the breakthrough, analog everything. Active listening, active learning. Memory palace, the method of Loki. Quotes and formulas. It's called high level conversation, high level building. Me saying thank you to the community, the online community that through whether it was hip hop records, whether it was Spanish, even through classical music, even through video imaging, even from the student community, the Asian student community, even from the black community as well. When I say black, I'm talking about the Nubian family, from the student community, from the universities, different universities, not just Columbia, not just Harvard, not just Yale, but also from universities such as the CUNY system, which is the City University of New York. Also, thanks to individuals and scholars that's into cybersecurity, individuals that came from the cybersecurity intelligent community from different walks of life. That's how, through study of learning and ways of learning, especially coding and learning formulas of how to learn faster and using the most out of your time. And you like to investigate, you like to monitor. I like using the celestial, the electronical, and the physical, tactical. So security, man, security, public safety, security, so cybersecurity is a lucrative career. And as I'm learning, once I learn and get it down pat, I would then share to you the pathway of cybersecurity. But I would not touch on that subject. Now remember the sentence mnemonics that I mentioned earlier, right? About the 9 planets, where it go like this. My very educated mother just served us nachos, which M is Mercury, which is mine. Very is Venus. E is educated Earth. Mother is Mars. Just is Jupiter. Served is Saturn. Us is Uranus. Nachos is Neptune. So the first letter is letting you remember the planets. So I gave you a mathematical formula for algebra. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally as a coded system. And we're using mnemonics. And I just gave you my very educated mother just served us nachos to give you the 9 planets. So what type of line? Lion I am. A noble line, a line with focus, a line with courage, a line that stands for righteousness, that operates within the confinement of the law. You heard? So it's the noble, the Ivy League, and also when you manifest it, let's say from the way the Rastafarians break it down, or even biblically, the tribe of Judah, and you look at lion, you look at pride. What is pride? In the lion jungle speak, pride is also your family. That's my pride. So I utilize the letter E for elevation, not stagnation or regression, but elevation and moving forward. One of the things that stop us from moving forward, particularly in the realms of academia or even in the realm of business or entrepreneurship, is that it is called fear, which is false expectations appearing real. And a lot of times that may be tied to a traumatizing effect when individuals as a child. It can be from a teacher or social worker, even a family member that perhaps was, instead of feeding words of empowerment to the child, they was feeding words of destruction and not uplifting, such as killing their dreams, like, oh, why are you studying that for? Or you think you're gonna be rich, or you think you're gonna be a politician, or you think you're gonna be this, always showing down their dreams and limiting their dreams to, oh, you probably just gonna be a drug dealer, or you probably just gonna be a gangbanger, or you're gonna be locked up or dead by this time, and not even providing no type of resources whatsoever. Just telling someone, oh yeah, they bad, or those are the troublemakers, or just don't do that. Especially if you're young. I'm talking about under the age of 21 now, not grown ass men. I'm talking about the youth. Is that it's harm reduction, so it's not easier said than done. Talking about, oh, this individual already used to make a particular amount of money, or those is a high risk factor. But you have to spend, so it's more about getting locked up, or more about getting shot up, God forbid. Those are the denominators of the outcomes that's possibly more likely that's going to happen. Not only that is what happens after the incarceration, during the incarceration, that your family is also impacted by it, your loved ones are impacted by it, and then when you're incarcerated, if you don't got that money, that clout, you won't be able to protect your family or your loved ones while you're incarcerated. The same way as if you are out here in society. And in addition, is that once you start learning all the knowledge, all the resources when you're incarcerated, you be like, wow, why don't want to teach me this when I was outside? Perhaps I would have, learned this skill that, all right, they were saying this is some nerdy stuff, or this is or that's that, only stereotypical types. Like, let's say I'm in East Harlem, so, stereotypical is like, the so-called nerds was going to Manhattan Center, and then it's like everybody, all the other schools we was average, right? And I used to be like, nah, I'm gonna find my way if I can't get in that school, but I'm gonna get into one school and show and prove that I could debate amongst individuals that come from these Ivy League schools or these top-notch, top-tier schools. And as an individual, I showed and proved that to myself, because even though I was incarcerated, when the youth is incarcerated, my job is to let them know that they have to make the best out of their time, and therefore utilize that time wisely, so therefore they could be more effective when they come out here in society. Even volunteering, learning programs, learning different things to be more employable. If I would have been listening to what everyone said when I first came home, I would have never even had a job with We Care, which is an HRA program that help individuals get jobs and go back to college, and help individuals who have limitations to work, but work on their strength to get into employment. I was an individual that used to get SSI. And when I found out mathematical equation, I said, wait a minute, you get paid more by making minimum wage than getting SSI? I was like, the hell with SSI. I want to work. That was a clutch. I was like, now I'm moving forward. Like, nah, I could learn and study just as them. In fact, as an individual, not to broadcast, not to flex, but to show as an example in regards to debating, that I could say for New York State, the New York State debate team of incarcerated individuals is still non-defeated. From Arthur Kill to Greenhaven to Eastern Correctional Facility, non-defeated. Came out in New York Times and many other outlets. humble. But to stay on top of your craft, you must stay sharp with it. You must keep it in practice and training. And you should not dumb yourself down, meaning that, like, oh, this way these individuals are speaking, let me speak like this too. Yes, you can speak the language of the people, but at least keep some type of finesse to keep your craft sharp. So even with big words, you're not don't have individuals. Oh, you think you're better because you're using big words or this, that, and third. No, I'm gonna keep it simple, but sometimes some high vocabulary words is better utilized than saying a whole paragraph or two or three, four paragraphs that could be said with just one word. See, that's called verbal economics. Verbal economics is saying that the words, verbal words, your words is used as currency, so use your words wisely. And when you use your words, make sure you use it effectively. And when having a conversation with people, one of the best things is active listening and also paraphrasing with the individual that lets the other individual know that you are actually listening to them is when you paraphrase. And that's also a way to make sure that you are comprehending what the other individual is saying before you make assumptions or presumptions. Paraphrase is key in communication. And in communication, one of the things that I learned is the TED, TED, such as YouTube TED Talk videos that I learned from. Well, TED, TED, is T, tell. When you communicate with individuals, ask them, tell me more about yourself, or tell me about your day, or tell me this, or tell me that. It's better than, how you doing? I'm okay. Day is good? No. So tell me about your day is an invitation for a conversation. It's not a closed-end communication sentence. Explain to me how your day was, or explain to me this. Explain how interesting your day was, or how good your day was. Is communication and focusing on them. Describe to me how your day was, or how this, that, and third. Another words of communication. That's TED, TED. Mnemonics, acronym. So Islam, not just a submission of peace, but Islam is also I, self, Lord, and master everything within my circumference. As above, so below, high level frequency. So therefore, arm, leg, arm, head. 5 elements. But one understand that biblically it says that you are God, the children of the Most High God. Key element. Most High God, children of the Most High God. Some people say that's the Nephilim, the giants. Some people say that's the ancient commands. If that's the case, then when Christianity came about from the church perspective, everything that Jesus taught, or should I say Isa, ISA, or Yeshua, Hebrew, what he taught was not really put in the books. It was kept in the Vatican, and a lot of those followers was persecuted by Paul because Paul was a straight up Jesus follower bounty hunter. He was executing all his followers. And then he said, all right, let me now come and take over the church, and let's get together with Constantine, and then let's get together and decide what books are going to stay, what books is not going to stay. That's when they incorporated paganism. That's when you have Pope Gregory, how you have this Gregorian calendar that we have today, how you have a fictional year, which is 12, but it's not 12, it's actually 13, but that's the lunar calendar. But this is 12, right? It's only 9, it's only really 10 digits or 10 numbers, right? So therefore, if you look at, let's say diciembre, that is 10 in Latin, but they say it's 12. November, number 9, is really 9, but they say noviembre, 11. October, 8, ocho, but it says it's 10. Septiembre is supposed to be 7, but it says it's 9. June, right, is 6, but July and August, July is for Julius Caesar, August is for Augustus. Those are the 2 added months. And then January, February, March is, other paganism that was incorporated because They had to do the best for the people to keep the paganism alive, or so-called paganism, because these are a different form of intellectualism. Because all these different forms of intellectualism and ways of being at one with the law and being in alignment by the church was deemed to be heretic or to be deemed uncanonical, and therefore anybody that dealt with the nature, that dealt with holistic approaches, that dealt with meditation, your yoga, your chi, thinking outside the box, not staying stuck to dogmatism. That is the true essence of a student, a traveling student. Knowing that the true essence of Allah, God's one, however you want to pronounce it, but knowing that it is the higher power. And under me, as an individual that come from the Abrahamic tradition, the way is For me, I still recognize Kemetic science. Sorry, I recognize Kemetic science all day, every day, but I do not worship the cosmos. I do not worship statues. I take all those in a metaphysical concept. For example, Greek philosophy is stolen the legacy. And if you look at the non-body contribution to civilization, you will see that. If you look at Manning P. Stanley Hall, you will see different philosophies, all the different isms, how you can make it asymmetrical, of being an alchemist, of being an architect. And I close out with this. The 7 Hermetic principles. Hermes Trismegistus, master of 3 great signs. 1 is mental. 2, correspondence. 3, vibration. 4, polarity. 5, rhythm. 6, cause and effect. 7, gender. What is said when you go into the pyramid? Know thyself. What does Elijah Muhammad teaches? Know thyself. What did Dr. Naeem Akbar, a psychologist, written about? Know thyself. Know thyself is your identity, your purpose, and your direction. The mind's will to become civilized, to remain civilized, and to teach civilization. That is the mind will. The 7 liberal arts. Grammar, rhetoric, logic, geometry, arithmetic, astronomy, and music. The 6 forms of assassination. Character, religion, economics, politics, legal, and death. The 7 deadly sins. Lust, greed, envy, hate, jealousy, vanity, pride. The 3 aspects of history. Image. Let's say, for example, my image, Malika has Shabazz. Mansa Musa, Abu Bakr, Felipe Luciano, Huey P. Newton, Fred Hampton, Cha-Cha Jimenez. The Shaolin monks, the warrior monks, the monkey style. Five soul attributes of the living body. 1, sensitive, responsive to stimuli. 2, rationale, able to reason. 3, nutritive, is a nourishing substance. 4, your appetite, physical desire for food. Learn how to eat to live. Locomotion, the ability to move from one place to another. The other form of leadership is that you have authoritarian, autocratic, democratic, which is the participant, and free reign. Under the authoritarian, autocratic leadership, that is the group leader, participant, democrat, group leader, the whole group, right? So authoritarian is just the leader, not the group, right? Autocratic is just the leader, not the group. Participation democratic is the leader and group together. That's the whole group, the leader and the group. That's called participation democracy. And then you have what they call free reign, which is no leader but just the group. I'm with the whole group. Leadership consists of credibility and characteristics. Honesty, essential to leadership, truthful, ethical, forward-looking, must have a destination in mind when asking for those to join them on a journey into the unknown. Inspiring, people admire and respect leaders who are dynamic, uplifting, enthusiastic, positive, and optimistic. And competent, is capable, effective, and wary with leadership roles. That's leadership. And with that, assalamu alaikum, peace, power to the people, to my comrades, to the brothers and sisters that's on righteousness, that's on consciousness, that's on high level conversation. That's the time I'm on. High level conversation. Peace, power to the people. Iron sharpen iron, you heard? It's never from a look down upon. It's never from a better than. It's called you keep a high standard to put yourself to go higher. If sky is the limit, you saying there's no limit, then you have a high standard, you have a plan to go about it. And the best way to learn is to learn from the executive mindset, the CEO mindset, the leadership mindset. You be yourself governor, learn what rules and regulations, what principles that applies to you to help navigate you to inner peace and happiness. All right? Peace. Assalamu alaikum. Power to the people. Keep it noble.